people who are felons and felons on the job do not get the benefit of a full pension. Number two, make sure that we are fully funding our pensions and not using smoke and mirrors to determine if our pensions are funded or not. And number three, standing up for defined benefit, particularly for middle-income earners and our public employees there. But we do need thoughtful reform with everybody at the table, and it's a broader problem than I can answer just shortly.
First of all, I believe that any solution to come up with public pensions needs to be a consensus. If we don't, the only people who benefit are the consultants who put up the ads in order to try to overturn it. We have to be responsible and come together. But I do support the right that we have an agreement. We need to work out with the people we made the agreement with. It's only fair. Yeah, a lot of people, and I know Brian and I will be back with some of the same people, when they came to us and said, we want you to put a 15-year freeze on COLAs because that's what they did in Rhode Island. I can't support that. How would you feel if your salary was frozen for 15 years? But we can get rid of things like kiting, making sure people aren't inflating, particularly if people are making $200,000 or $300,000 a year. They're the people that are really sapping our pension system, not the people who are making $2,000 or less a month on a pension. It's about time we all really got down to the issue. Thank you for responsibility in terms of addressing this problem.
Mr. Nazarian. First and foremost, similar to the sacrosanct of Proposition 13 for the residential component, we cannot change the commitment made to those who have given their lives to serve others. So I would not want to change the defined benefits. If negotiating the arms of the employees want to go in and negotiate something better, I'd be happy to hear that. But I don't think it's important, it's necessary to change in the middle of the game. But there are steps that we can take, and the governor has outlined a 12-point plan. I don't see how that's going to happen, but some of them, including vacation holidays, were spiking, are important to smooth out and be able to deal with.
A promise made is a promise kept. We made promises to our law enforcement, our firefighters, and our public safety workers, among many other folks, that really are essential services, and I am against any changing in the pension plan. But I will tell you what I've learned as being a president at Home Shopping Network, and then as president, as deputy state controller for the state of California. Accountability starts at the top. If I didn't perform, if I wasn't able to make it work, I was the one that got fired or suffered, not the workers. Now what we have here is a very serious issue. We have to create more investment opportunities and more returns within our pension funds so that we can meet the obligation that we have. And if the people that we have at the top aren't doing that, then we need to get people who can, because they're out there. And the results show that other pension plans and other pension programs are working very well in the United States.
Oh, we're going to just ask a quick question with a quick answer because of time constraints. So we'll start with Mr. Lachman. What is your position on AB 1648, which requires the three largest donors of political ads to be made public? Yes or no?
I always support transparency 100%. Yes.
Absolutely, and I would want to see not only 3, but maybe even the top 5 or greater number, because and also to make sure that there are no hidden committees behind the committees, because that's what ends up happening and ruining our system.
I would agree. I think that it's very important.
Transparency is the absolute bedrock of the democratic process. I'm absolutely supportive of it.
Next question. SB 810, single-payer health care. Yay or nay? Mr. Nazarian?
Single payer? Absolutely.
No, I support the Obama Patient Protection Act, which provides for subsidies and tax credits for people earning up to $81,000 in LA County in a family of 4, or $48,000 in a single person. This is the best solution for California. It really is.
You know, when I was growing up, my dad was in the Army. My dad would go to West Point and served 20 years in the Army. And we, as a family, had great medical care and great dental care. And we had it because we functionally had a single-payer system. We had a single-payer system that we provide our military, our active duty, and our veterans. I believe in single-payer. I believe that it is a justice issue, and I believe that it is an efficiency issue, which can overall contribute to bringing down the cost of health care.
Thank you. First of all, I come from a public health family. My father is a public health physician, as I mentioned earlier. He's a pediatrician, specialty in adolescent medicine. This is very near to my heart. It's an issue I dealt with growing up when I worked with my father. I do support 810. I think there's another way we can get to single payer as well, using the system we have for exchanges. With regards to people who think that the Obama program will solve it, it might get overturned by the Supreme Court. What will we do then? Then we don't have an option. So I do in fact support it, and I think there's more we can do in order to improve accountability and make healthcare more accessible.
Thank you. The third segment of our program are questions and answers among the candidates to each other. So we're going to start with Ms. Healy, and she's going to ask one question of each of the other candidates, if she has them. And you can, go ahead, start here.
Yeah, Ryan, do you support lifting the caps on medical malpractice?
I'm absolutely supportive of our current micro regime, and I don't want to see that changed.
Andrew?
I don't think it's a realistic expectation. I think in this political environment it's very unlikely to happen.
It's not going to change right now. I don't think there's a political will.
Does that mean you support it, or if you were given the option, would you support it?
I support it, but I would be open to looking at very small, gradual cost of living increases in the future.
Andrew, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Can we get follow-up?
No, I just wanted to...
Sure. This is my feeling on the matter is this. I'm generally opposed to caps as a principle, but I think that right now there's a valid argument in terms of predictability of healthcare, of cost, and malpractice is part of that. So
You're open to it.
You want to ask another question?
No.
Okay.
Excellent. No.
So I'll do the same thing and ask the same question of all the candidates. Great, thank you. So I'll start with Andrew. Part of being a reformer and fighting for our community sometimes means fighting your friends. Could you name an example, either in the recent past or what you would do in your first couple of months in the Assembly, where you would disagree with the Democratic caucus?
Well, let me talk about a little what I've done with the parties. I think it's a perfect example. Was president of a group called Democrats for Israel. We've had some issues with some who have been, who are out there who do not support Israel. And while I may agree with them on a lot of other issues, on this one I have not been afraid to take them on and tell them I think they're wrong. There are ways in which you can tell people they're wrong, but you can stand up sometimes, and sometimes you can get little changes made which allow us to reach that goal. So I will tell you, I've done this before and I'll be glad to do it again. Because one thing my parents taught me is that you don't shirk back and standing up for what you know is right. Because I have to look at myself in the mirror, and my wife has to talk to me the next morning. So I want her to talk to me the next morning.
Thank you.
She doesn't have to do anything.
Same question.
Thank you for the question. I do it on a daily basis because I am in public service. So my core belief is that at the end of the day, I represent you. So if there isn't something you don't like, that reflects poorly on me, and you get to vote on it every other year's basis. So my accountability is to you, not to the leadership, not to anybody else. And to give you an example, I did work on a pharmaceutical bill challenging the pharmaceutical companies 3 years ago. Not only did it lose, it went down in flames because when all the other members saw that my Paul bill was not, that I worked on, was not going to win, it dropped down from 31 votes down to 13 votes, and it went in flames. So, no, you shouldn't be afraid of taking on and sometimes bucking the system.
The most important legislation I've worked on as Deputy State Controller is the Global Warming Bill, which was passed in 2006. It was AB 32. Leading up to that, everyone had different sides of the argument as to whether or not we were going to really just collapse our economy as we do it, manufacturing. But what it really did was it spurred renewable energy growth. It spurred technology growth. It spurred, really, literally, a new industry. But by standing tall with that, standing strong with my controller, Steve Wesley, we really heralded in that opportunity, and we did a jobs estimate, and we saw that renewable energy jobs would grow 2 to 1 over the next 9 years, and in fact, that is exactly what is happening. So sometimes being tough and knowing how to do the right thing is really going to end up in a good solution. You just have to believe it will.
Thank you. Mr. Lachman, your opportunity to ask one or more
Well, I was going to ask if a train leaves Phoenix traveling at 60 miles an hour, but I was told there'd be no math questions, so I'm not going to put that one up. I will say this, you know, we've seen not only in this race, but in many other races across the state, the prevalence of a lot of outside money and special interest money in this race, in races. How will each of you take a step to stand up and make sure that no one particular group who may be funding or a group of people funding a campaign will influence our decisions and keep our independence as legislators?
Mr. Nazarian?
Thanks for the question. I'm proud to say that of all the funds I've raised, over 55% of it comes right here from San Fernando Valley. I haven't raised anything in Sacramento yet. I'm sure I'm going to be raising some at some point when, depending on how they see my viability, of course, they'll start wanting to contribute. And I'm probably the only candidate who's raised the most money from within the district. I have at least over 40 contributors from the district alone, and over 55% of my funds raised is from the San Fernando Valley. As for holding accountable, I think it's very important, and there is going to be quite a bit of money coming in from HEALEYs and independent expenditures in this race.
You know, I thought we weren't going to have a math question because I think you're a little mistaken on that. I've lived here for 20 years. I have bought my first and only home. I've never left here. And frankly, I think that we might just be about high on the number of people from Sherman Oaks that have contributed and maybe used it, because most of those folks are contributing $25 and $100 and $50, and maybe it's just hard to count all those folks. But the reality is that that's really the community that I'm interested in. You know, we all live here. We've lived here a long time. We know what fair share means. We know what it means to be able to stand up for our communities and to be somebody that deeply and passionately understands it. So I am proud to say that really my special interests are you.
I am, at the end of the day, and the beginning of the day, a public school educator and a first grade teacher. That is what I spend my time thinking about, is our kids and our future and our families. Someone once gave me good advice. Said, when you're running a campaign, think like a racehorse. Put your blinders on. That means you stay focused, you don't get distracted, but you keep your ears out there. So for me, that's what I'm staying focused on. I'm honored that over 750 separate individual donors have contributed to my campaign. There is no one block that is supporting me, and I'm honored to be able to stand up for our future and be an independent and reformed voice for the San Fernando Valley.
The final questioner, Mr. Nazarian.
Do I get questions for each individual?
Yes,
or
each individual.
a different question?
Different question.
All right. Brian, you probably display Democrats for Education Reform on your lawn signs as the only Democratic fund endorsement you've received. The director of the organization recently said, per pupil, quoted in a paper, per pupil funding should be used for lobbying purposes. Do you agree with that? Or if you do not agree with that, will you disavow that endorsement?
I don't even know what that means, Adrian, and I can't even imagine what I don't know if it was which director you're talking about. I've not seen this quote. I will tell you, I am a Democrat. I will stand up. Thank you. I'm a Democrat. I stand up for education reform. That is what my entire life and career has been, and I will continue to stand up for that.
Okay. So you're not taking a position one way or the other?
No, I do not think, I don't even know, like I said, what per pupil funding being used for lobbying expenses would be. I can't even imagine what that is.
All right, thank you. Ask the next question.
All right. As for the next question, Andrew, do you support or oppose growth of charter schools in LAUSD?
I generally do not. I believe they should be limited. Let me tell you very quickly why. I think charter schools play a valuable role. I think they're out there. We all know that they can, in special circumstances, provide flexibility at a local level. The issue is accountability, in my mind. Number one, when you're a charter school, it tends to select people who are already interested in their kids' education. What do we do with special ed kids who are in special education who don't get access to those services? What do we do for kids whose parents are not involved with their education because they're working 4 jobs, or they have a 6th grade education where they come from, or there's substance abuse problems in the home? I want accountability on every level. Charter schools should be able to disclose how their money is being spent and where, and have open meetings, and take special ed, just like every public school, and then we will have good quality public education across the board.
Last question.
Laurette, you're already seeing an infusion of independent expenditure money coming into this race. There's already $100,000 that's been slated to be spent for one candidate. What is your stance on independent expenditures and outside money influencing this election?
Well, ADRIN, I'm surprised you know about that, because really legally we're not supposed to. You know, quite frankly, that is part of the law, so the fact that you know it is kind of
It's
weird.
public information, Laurette.
Okay.
It's on the website.
Okay, whose website is that?
Secretary of State.
An independent expenditure earmarked for a particular candidate. I spend my time thinking about what I'm going to do for this community. I spend my time thinking about how I'm going against the state legislature and the money and the budget and the deficits that we're dealing with. I don't know what you're spending your time on, but I really suggest that you start thinking about the policies that will work for us.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. The fourth segment is going to be a 60-second closing for each of the 4 candidates. The last segment, you'll come up here, and they will stay as long as you hold them here, engaging them in conversation and questions and cross-examination. All right? Now, there's one final question that I have. Very quick, a yes or no question. If you make the runoff, will you return here for a debate against your opponent in the runoff on October 17th?
Yes.
I'm a member of this organization, yes.
I'd love to, but I'd love the double time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like a little more time, but you know, if we don't get it, I'll be here anyway.
Yeah, you'll have more time, with 2 people. Okay, so you want to say something first, and then we'll have to close. Next month, Tom Lavange will be our speaker, who, as everyone knows here, is our new city council person in our new CD4. Okay, so closing statements. Why don't we start in this direction here?
Sure, thank you very much. In closing, I just want to say I love public service. I've dedicated my life to public service, and to show it, I have the endorsements of Joe Vance, president of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, for the honorary mayor of Sherman Oaks, Jules, and I see some other folks that are here. Please don't hesitate to join us at John and Judy Glass's coffee in Studio City, and I'd be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you again for having me here today as a member of this organization. I live over near Riverside in Ethel. I'm proud to be here and be a member of this, be a member and have a chance to talk with you. I'd also see my friend David Healy back there in the back, and I just wanted to acknowledge him being here as well tonight as a friend and supporter. And there are many others in this community. We can all play the I'm the friends of. We know all of us have supporters here in the community. The difference we have here is who's going to stand up for accountability and make sure that your voice is heard in Sacramento. So we've got leadership. And I believe with my background as an educator, as a legislative aide, and in the private sector, I can provide that combination of experience and make a real difference to make sure that your voice is heard in Sacramento. And coming back as a former field rep myself, having served part of this district over in the Universal City area, making sure that you have good, reliable constituent service. Because I come from a service industry myself. So thank you very much. We're having a community event, Steve Starks, on the 23rd. Love to see you there as well.
Thank you again. I really appreciate giving the opportunity to come here, and it really is a treat and privilege to speak to you all tonight. You know, I decided to run for the state assembly because I believe we need real reformers and real change agents up in Sacramento fighting for our community. And it's not just people who talk about reform or think about reform, but people who've actually brought about reform. So when I ran Teach for America, I had the privilege again of recruiting nearly 800 teachers to help reform LAUSD, including an emphasis of placement in San Fernando Valley. When I ran my public schools, that we nearly, actually more than doubled our diversity and skyrocketed our student achievement so that our schools were outperforming every single public school in Beverly Hills. And we did this with a 20% per pupil budget cut. I know that reform is not a talking word, reform is not a thinking word, reform is a doing word. And I would love to be able to fight for reform in Sacramento for all of you. Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much, Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. I would like to say that I am the only candidate that actually owns a home in this district. All of my opponents have rented apartments or homes between September and December of 2011. That's because they actually didn't live here before that, with the exception of Ryan and you rent. But, see, I gotcha. But the fact of the matter is, I coordinated the largest workforce training program in the nation, got the largest job placement in the nation, put more people back to work in our community than has been in years. You know, when we talk about reform, I think it's another way of looking at that is innovation, leadership, looking for solutions that can actually streamline the regulations and the onerous taxation that's on the backs of the people that live in the San Fernando Valley. What I want to do is stick up for my community, the one I've lived in. You know, only 9% of the state assembly are women, and yet we're 54% of the state.
Thank you.
Gotta change.
All right. Now you can applaud.